Hey, welcome to Songwriter's Tales. I'm Mark.
I'm Craig.
And Craig, who do we have on today?
I'm glad you asked me that, Mark. We've got a person that our audience out here is going to have a big question mark in their mind going, what in the world does a man that has a degree in microbiology, electrical engineering, and aerospace engineering, what does that person have to do with Songwriter's Tales with Mark and Craig?
Well, let's find out. Let's do it.
And then one day, John and I had a conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were talking about frequencies. And if you have tuned into our other podcast with Otts Kilcher from Alaska, The Final Frontier, if you haven't heard it yet, you can go back and pull that off of Spotify or YouTube. Otts was talking about working with veterans and how nature, first of all, is healing. So he would take his veterans that were suffering out into the wilderness and just let them breathe in the air, just take in the quiet, and just enjoy the nature and let nature heal them. Physically, mentally, spiritually. But the other aspect that we were talking about with Otts, John, was about frequencies and about music, how music can actually heal you and soothe you and change your emotions, not just the lyrics, because you can hear a song that has no lyrics, classical music, for instance, and it will hit an emotional spot in you that is just as strong as somebody saying words to you. And so I remember back in the 70s, you and I had this conversation. We were talking about the stage show, and it was all about how we were going to impress or control an audience, to come over to our side,
Right.
and like us. And whenever you touch somebody emotionally, once you do that with somebody, if it's in a good way, it's going to be a connection.
Right.
And so that's what we want to do. That's what musicians want to do. They want to connect with people so that they become friends, if that's the proper term. So you were talking about, I wonder if there's a frequency, that you really can't even hear. Maybe it's so low that when you play this frequency, it will cause people to be sad. It will cause people to be nostalgic, or it'll cause people to be anxious, or it'll, any number of emotions. And that's possibly what the Who was doing when they were running a real low rumble was, like an earthquake, well, that's even going to cause a deer or an antelope or a buffalo to get freaked out because they just know something's not right.
Something's happening, yeah.
Something's about to hit.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
something to that, and everybody can feel those frequencies. So why don't you speak to that for just a minute here?
Yeah, I'd love to hear, because Craig told me about that. And I said, oh, we've got to get John on because I am so fascinated by frequencies and the dynamics of music, the dynamics of frequencies and how they tingle different emotions. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and so you were ahead of the game. You were already thinking it back in the day. So I'm anxious to hear what led you to that. What got you thinking about that?
Well, I think in electronics, one of the main things you do in electrical engineering is you design sound systems, and it's not all about designing, other things. There's sound systems and things like that. And one of the things that I had learned in there and made perfect sense to me was if you really wanted to build this feeling of anticipation before your concert music started, you should be able to play some low frequency sort of note that even though it's not music and even though the audience really can't hear it, you can feel it. It's just like, a herd of wildebeest running by. You can feel it, but you don't know something's going wrong somewhere or something is, getting your attention. And so I started playing with that, being a nerd. I started playing with that. And what I wanted them to feel was this vibration or something that would build the anticipation of this, what was about to come. I wanted to start establishing excitement as opposed to everybody sitting there with none of that buzz going on. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted that buzz to be going on.
Sure.
And, it was pretty quick to figure out that it didn't need to be like at 1 cycle per second or 1 hertz per second. It needed to be somewhere in the 16 to 20 range, and that the shape of the wave made a difference. If you'd had a sine wave, it was a little pure. I mean, it could still shake you up a little bit, but that the thing to use was something that had more harmonics in it, something like a sawtooth wave.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I knew all of that just from building synthesizers. That's the way you get into all the analog synthesizers. And if you had something like a sawtooth wave or even a square wave, it's generating higher frequencies. It's not just sticking on the 16 hertz frequency that you're transmitting on. It's generating high frequency, and they're almost coming out at random. It's almost like to me visually it would look like some big powerful thing, but every now and then little sparkles showing up in the air around
Mm-hmm.
it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it would just really be something that the audience knew something was happening, and you could see the audience quit talking to each other and start looking around the room and thinking, what in the world is happening? Is there something happening out in the street or something like that? And doing that, and then if you were clean on the release, like I was talking about when we were watching The Who, if you're clean on the release, which means nobody comes out and spoils the image. There's none of this walking out on stage and tuning up
Mm-hmm.
a guitar. That all has to be done way before people start arriving. I didn't want anybody visible on the stage. And so you start building up this thing that's making everybody feel like something's happening. And you make it gradually go louder and louder and louder, and the suspense is building, and you probably have an intro tape building up some sort of music at the same time. But then all of a sudden the band is there, just
Mm-hmm.
bam like that. And you're just knocking them back. We would have times when the front 10 feet of the audience would just fall on their fall on their rear end because they were
Mm-hmm.
so shocked. And but that was the kind of thing we were getting at when Craig was talking about things we were getting at, this sound frequencies and how that affects the people that are standing out in the audience.
Have you guys seen, to this very point, have you either one of you seen, any videos from the Sphere, in Vegas
Yeah.
with the
Exactly.
Backstreet Boys?
The
They
Backstreet Boys.
they have a thing there right now, and their intro is exactly what you're talking about.
Is
I
it
mean,
really?
it's visually stunning, but there's something that's building, that's building, that's building, and
Yes. It's
then when it kind of goes dark and there's 5 guys on stage, with the spots hit them, I mean, the place erupts.
oh
Yeah.
It's
yes. Oh yes. It's
so
just
powerful.
boom right in your chest. You feel it all the way
Mhm.
through you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
so yeah,
It's
so you gotta, pull out all the stops, do whatever it takes. So addressing to anybody who's listening to this and the artists and the upcoming, talent that's coming out, um, to not only be the best player and at what you do, and if you're a songwriter, if you're a player, but utilize all the tools in the toolbox that you can possibly master. That's the point. But I want Mark to talk about something that he and I have been talking about, and since you're in on this now, John, talk about the 339, Mark.
Actually, it's the 432.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No,
close.
talk about the 339.
Yeah, okay, I can talk about that too. I'll make something up. Uh, yeah,
339.
it's okay.
That's my lottery ticket, I think is
Yeah, I
what
was gonna say, is that the first 3 numbers of your Social Security or something?
it's all it just repeats 3 times.
Yeah. No, it's funny, when we were talking, I was really excited when Craig was talking about, getting you on the show because I'm a geek for this stuff too. I love it. I love well, just to get a little personal, my dad, when he had a heart attack, oh, we've got another cat.
You're
We've got
about
a
to be
cat, John.
attacked by a cat, John.
I'm not surprised. There's 6 of them around here.
Oh, Lord. my
It's just
dad
like growing up. Sorry,
yeah.
Mark.
I was gonna say my dad, when he had a heart attack, he they said, "Well, you need to do all this and do all this," and my dad went out and sat in the sun and listened to the ocean. He's on the West Coast, and he listened to classical music for about 3 weeks, and all he did was sit in the sun and listen, intermittently between the ocean and then Vivaldi or Bach or whatever, and he swears that he healed and when he went back to the doctor and their doctor's like, "Wow, what have you been doing? You're kind of a lot further along than I expected for someone, almost 80 years old."
Mhm.
And he said, "I just been listening to music."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm really into that. And I think I was telling Craig that, before they had a standard tuning of 440, it was kind of all over the place. But a lot of people, and of course, there's always this conspiracy theory when anything happens. And that when they decided to make 440 the standard across the globe, so that it was mainly for radio stations who wanted every song to kind of have a cohesive from one
Yeah.
song to the next. But
Yeah.
432 is more in line. Scientists, and maybe you could speak to this, I don't know. Apparently, scientists say the Earth hums at more of a 432 than a 440. And that's why a lot of meditation music, a lot of healing, that music that's written for healing and meditation and spiritual things is written in 432. The tuning
Huh.
is 432.
Well, that's interesting.
So, and because they said 440 it's, it's, it causes more, 432 is more natural, more healing, more quiet. 440 is a little more heightened because
Mhm.
there's a little more dissonance in it, and so that it causes it, even subconsciously for people to go, "Wow." And I mean, it goes right along with what you were saying, John. I mean, about I hate to use the word manipulating because that sounds horrible, but it's like you're you're driving emotion with frequencies,
Right.
and we've all been to shows like that where you're like, "Man, you could tell something's about to happen."
Something exciting is about to happen to us.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, John, unless you've got something to add, man, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. It's always good to see. I believe I'm going to be seeing you down in Peachtree City next month too, aren't we? We're going to get
Yeah,
together. Yeah,
thanks for changing the, time so I could actually be there on a
you
Monday. I've
bet.
got a
Mhm.
standing meeting every Monday with all my old buddies from Delta,
Yeah,
Oh,
John,
and,
and you're still working, aren't you? You're still you're a consultant
consulting.
now.
I'm trying not to, but but invariably something pops up.
mhm.
There's always the guys that are just wishing they could find something to do, and guys like you that are going, man, I'm
Lose
working too
lose my
much.
number, lose my number.
Yeah, everybody loses that one.
Hey, I got a tip for you. Just charge more.
Mhm.
Well,
Really.
I've done that as far as I can reasonably do it. It's like I almost feel like I'm crooked, taking their money, but
Especially when
not
you
quite.
enjoy what you're doing. That makes it even worse. I
Yeah,
Mm.
always
I
feel
know.
guilty playing the guitar for people. It's like, man, I'm having fun.
All this conversation we were having from my point of view and all the things that I used to think about when we were trying to get blackjack to be successful. I bet when you talk to Charlie Roberts, you can get a lot of the same sense of it.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was him or whether it was Eli, but or his brother. I don't know if I got the right name for
No,
Charlie's brother,
Dennis was his brother. Eli was his dad.
his dad with the oil company. But somebody in Eli, the band, seemed to be putting the same sort of thought that we were putting into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was
That
somebody, and there
that
weren't
was
that many bands that were doing that.
Choice was the other one.
Choice was doing it. Everybody
Mark
always said
Sutherland. Yep,
there were 3 bands in the Southeast then, and, if either one of those 3 bands were playing, then you knew you were in for an evening, so
that's right. Yeah, Blackjack, Choice, Eli, and then Snow came down from up north.
yeah,
And
I
yeah,
but
remember a I remember a band called Subway too. I used to see them a couple of
yeah,
times in Athens, and they were the same, very theatrical,
Yeah, yeah.
They played Bohemian Rhapsody, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah,
Oh,
the Subway
man, you
came
couldn't play that, that's good.
yeah, they came a few years after us.
Mhm.
We actually learned from Choice and Eli. They kind of set the standard, and then we came up, but caught up with them just by observation, and then made our own. Made it our own.
Yeah,
And that's the point. Learn from people who are doing it, and then make it your own.
yeah, and I
Right?
knew there was a way to measure that, we found out that, if, for instance, we played "Won't Get Fooled Again," which we did, or "Stairway to Heaven," which we did, basically none of the other bands around would play it because they didn't wanna be compared to us playing those songs.
Mm,
And Choice had songs like that, "Funeral for a Friend."
that's right.
Nobody would play that because Choice played it so well that nobody else wanted a comparison to be
Opened
there.
up with it.
Yeah. So I was always looking to see who was doing what, in terms of, who was playing what songs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, man, we sure appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Well, it's
What?
fun, and I look forward to meeting Mark, so this
It's
is
been a
great.
pleasure, John. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, you're speaking my language. I'm geeking out just listening to you.
Well, hey, John, Mark's probably going to come down to Zach Brown's camp, Southern Ground, with me again here shortly, and when we do, we'll try to make arrangements for Mark to
Man, I'd
come.
love
You
it.
can have
Yeah,
lunch
we're
with the guys, and
gonna
then
have
I'd love
lunch or
it.
something, that'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That'd
Yeah,
be great.
So
yeah.
anyway, give your family our best, and
Yep.
go feed that cat.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'll have to do that. They get mad and start scratching my head if I don't feed them.
Yeah.
I love it.
Alright, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again,
John.
John.
Enjoyed it.
Bye bye.
Bye.